All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep into a really fascinating text, one that looks at water in a whole new way. I mean, we're not just talking about a chemical compound here, but a substance with this hidden, structured nature. So let's get into it and unpack what this is all about.
Right off the bat, the source hits us with this powerful idea. Water is more than just a simple molecule. It has a memory that can store information. Whoa. I mean, that's a pretty big claim, right? It totally sets the stage for a journey that goes way beyond what we normally think about water. So, let's see how the text backs this up.
Okay, so we all know the basics, right? We learned it in school. Water is H2O, it evaporates from the oceans, hangs out in clouds, and then comes back down as rain. You know, that whole familiar cycle. It's a system we totally depend on, simple and reliable.
But here's where things get interesting. This is the real pivot. The source challenges us to think, what if there's more to it? What if water actually has a structure and even a memory? It's a huge question that kind of shifts everything we thought we knew.
So the first big idea we need to wrap our heads around is this concept of water behaving like a liquid crystal. Now, you might be asking, what's a liquid crystal? Well, it's this really cool state of matter that's somewhere between a liquid and a solid.
So let's break that down. What is a liquid crystal? The easiest way to think about it is like a hybrid. It's got the organized, patterned structure you'd see in a solid crystal, but at the same time it can still flow and move around like a liquid. It's kind of like having the best of both worlds, right? Order and flexibility all rolled into one.
And this comparison here really makes it clear. You know, in a normal liquid, the molecules are just all over the place, totally disordered. In a crystal, they're locked into this super rigid, regular pattern. The argument in the source is that water, because of its special hydrogen bonds, can form this kind of structured honeycomb-like lattice that actually has properties of both.
And according to the source, this whole liquid crystal structure is the secret behind so many of water's weird and wonderful properties. You know, things like its super high surface tension. That's what lets little bugs walk right on top of it. Or its high heat capacity, which is a huge deal for regulating the Earth's climate. It all ties back to this proposed structure.
Okay, so this idea of structure brings us to one of the most talked about parts of the source material, the concept of water memory. And to explore this, the text really focuses on the work of a Japanese researcher named Masaru Emoto.
So, Emoto had this very specific three-step method for his experiments. First, he'd take vials of water and expose them to all sorts of different things. He'd talk to the water, play music for it, even just tape words onto the glass. Then, step 2, he'd freeze little droplets from each sample. And finally, he'd get out his microscope and photograph the ice crystals that formed.
And the results, at least as they're reported in the source, are pretty wild. There's this really clear pattern. The water that was exposed to positive stuff, like the words love and thank you, supposedly formed these absolutely beautiful, symmetrical, snowflake-like crystals. But on the flip side, the water exposed to negative things, well, it was said to form these ugly, distorted, and incomplete shapes. A huge contrast.
And it turns out Emoto wasn't the only one exploring these kinds of ideas. The source makes it clear that he's part of a broader field of alternative research. It mentions other scientists like Dr. Gerald Pollack, who actually proposed a fourth phase of water. And you've got researchers like Shent Georgi and Ling, who argued for years that the water inside our own cells is highly structured.
Okay, so if this structured water is a real thing, where does it even come from? Well, the source paints this amazing picture of a natural maturation process. It's described almost like an epic journey, deep, deep inside the Earth. The text cites these two researchers, Pangman and Evans, who lay out the whole process. Picture this. Rainwater seeps way down into the Earth's crust. It chills out for ages in these ancient dark chambers, picking up minerals and salts. But here's the cool part. In that total darkness, it's said to absorb solar whispers, which are basically photons carrying cosmic information. Then, as it slowly makes its way back up to the surface, its molecules all line up, becoming this coherent, full-spectrum living water.
And listen to the language the source uses to describe this. It's so poetic. It says, this water carries the wisdom of ages, the whispers of rocks, the touch of minerals, and the solar embrace. So we're not just talking about H2O anymore. The text is framing this as a living elixir, one that literally carries the memory of its entire incredible journey.
All right, now let's zoom out a bit, because the source doesn't just stop with water itself. It connects all these ideas to what it calls the fundamental patterns of the entire universe.
It all starts with this massive question. Is there a fundamental energy shape to the universe, like a blueprint for everything? And the answer it proposes is something called the torus field.
So what in the world is a torus field? Well, think of a donut. It's basically a self-sustaining donut-shaped vortex of energy. And the book claims that you can see this exact same pattern of flow everywhere, at every single scale, from the magnetic field of an apple or the human heart, all the way up to the shape of a star or an entire galaxy. And the patterns don't just stop with shapes. The source also points to a fundamental number that it says governs the patterns of nature. You've probably heard of it, the golden ratio, also known as phi, which is roughly 1.618.
And once you start looking for it, the source claims you see this ratio and the related Fibonacci sequence everywhere in nature. I mean, check out this list. It's in the perfect spiral of a nautilus shell and even a hurricane. It's in the number of petals on flowers, the arrangement of seeds in the sunflower head, even the shape of a breaking ocean wave. And get this, it's even in the proportions of the human body. The argument is this can't all be a coincidence. It's evidence of a deep mathematical order.
And just to bring it all full circle, the text also links these ideas back to ancient wisdom. For example, in Taoism, the water element has always been a symbol for adaptability, for stillness, and for profound wisdom, which are the exact same qualities the source is attributing to its idea of structured water. So, let's wrap this all up. What's the main takeaway from this source material? The bottom line is this: water is presented not as some inert, simple chemical, but as a dynamic, living, crystalline medium. It's like a memory bank for the universe, constantly recording, storing, and transmitting the information and energies it comes across.
And that leaves us with one last, really big question that the text kind of inspires. If water truly is a mirror for its environment, if it really reflects the thoughts, the sounds, and the energies it encounters, then what is the water all around us and inside us reflecting right now? Definitely something to think about.